Here we go inside the DC Sports Huddle. I'm Dave Johnson, Chris Cichon, George Wallace, Dave Preston, Rob Woodfork. It seems like we're getting the team back together almost in regular season form, but it's preseason football, the excitement of preseason football that we're going to be talking about. The Washington football team, only one chapter of three chapters. I'm old enough to remember when there were 6 preseason games and football players really did have to get in shape because they had to hold down part-time jobs in the offseason. And the first 3 games were just trying to get rid of their beer bellies. It's a much different NFL today. With that, we will begin. I commend folks to check out WTOP.com, Dave Preston's Burgundy and Gold grab bag. We don't want to give away your whole grab bag, but what's your headline from that grab bag after 1 week of the preseason?
Well, I think it highlighted, I guess, back in the day, and we say back in the day because it was back in the Shanahan and Jay Gruden era. They didn't succeed during the regular season, but they were awesome in August. 25-15 last decade, including an unbeaten season where they won more games in the preseason than they did in the regular season. But what it does, the Burgundy and Gold grab bag highlights it's sort of an inside the numbers, behind the scenes look at who played well, how the team fared on third down, and each year there's that summer sensation. This year it looks like it might be Jared Patterson, who led the team in rushing and receiving last Thursday at New England. The plucky kid from the University of Buffalo, actually a local kid, he's from Laurel, Maryland. He's the guy that I think last week in the DC Sports Huddle we say, who could that person be? We already have our leader in August. That's the guy we're looking at.
Yeah, I really missed out last week with being on vacation. I wanted to throw in Babe Laufenberg because we had some fun with Babe Laufenberg back in the day. I'll get my 2 cents in real quick. I just think forgetting the individual performances as we go through the second preseason and we're about to begin the second season of Ron Rivera, it feels good because you feel like he's in charge. He's got this program together. Something is building and something is going on. And that's not with any disrespect to previous coaches. I'm just talking about the quality of Ron Rivera. He's done it before, obviously, with Carolina, and there's no reason to believe he will not continue to build this team from strength to strength. So that's my feel-good thing as you hear him talk and you hear the way he's guiding this team. It's in a good place. George Wallace, your take.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think guys are buying in completely, to his program. And I think the way the offense and offensive guys are talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick and what he has been able to bring to this offense so far. You heard Terry McLaurin this week, running backs talking about it as well, Antonio Gibson, just on how he is the calming guy in the huddle, but he also has command of the huddle, and they'll work after practice on certain things, or they'll, as Terry McLaurin said, after certain plays, even at practice, if it's successful, they'll come out and say, well, you could do this, you could do that better. So I think that is a good change. I think that is a good commanding guy in the huddle that you like to have in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think guys are buying into that. They know he's been around. They've heard him say that this is the best situation he's been in with the playmakers around the offense and just basically the team culture. So that's a positive. To your point about Jared Patterson, look, they cut Lamar Miller, former Pro Bowl, already this week. So to me, that shows that Patterson showed well enough in the first preseason game, and even Ron Rivera saying he wants to get him back returning punts. So I think that is a positive sign for one of the guys in August that is going to shine with a couple of games left. I was fine with what we saw with the first team offense. Of course, the defense looks like it's in midseason form. Pleased to see what Landon Collins was able to do in his first game back since the Achilles. Chase Young got to Cam Newton on the second or third play. So you see the defense kind of clicking there. Jamin Davis, De'Ami Brown, the 2 rookies, still looking to see how they progress through the next couple of games. They're going to get their opportunities as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chase Young. Terry McLaurin, I was talking, or he was on, we had him on TOP, the soundbite on TOP this morning, just talking about how Chase Young came into Ohio State humble and eager to learn, did the same thing coming into his professional environment. That kind of attitude is going to allow him to continue to soar into superstardom. Chris Cichon, you've got a scowl on your face. That must mean you're in a good mood. What are you thinking?
Because we're kind of really celebrating a team that lost 22-13. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't like all that impressed. I mean, one thing that I like I've seen from training camp reports is Ryan Fitzpatrick's rapport with Adam Humphries, veteran receiver out of Clemson, who's bounced around a little bit, had a down year in Tennessee. What always stood out to me about Adam Humphries, Dabo Swinney came on ESPN a couple of years ago, and he's coached the likes of some of the best football players in the country. And he would specifically talk about Adam Humphries and the work ethic and what he brought to a team, the toughness aspect. And I think that in a crowded wide receiver room where I had my doubts as to whether this guy would actually make it, he seems to be somebody that's going to be a true slot guy. They really haven't had a true slot since Jamison Crowder. So that's really the guy that I'm paying attention to here. Outside of that, I think we saw the defense starters play, pretty well, kind of about what we expected. And Taylor Heineke, he only ran the ball once, but I like his mobileness. So if at some point, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick will probably get benched. He gets benched on every team he plays on. And we might see some Heineke. I'd like to see him running around a little bit. That'll help this team, just like maybe it almost won him a game in the playoffs.
Okay, Rob Woodfork.
Come on, man. You guys are killing me with the Heineke thing.
Well,
man. Look, having watched him play in this preseason game, I'm not trying to extrapolate whatever happens in a preseason game and try
Hey, man, that's a school word. You can't use that word here. You can't use that word here. It's a school word.
I recognize that it's not going to be something that's going to happen in the regular season, but he looked like a two playing against twos. And so if you're a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, you go into that second wave of players and you look like the best player on the field. I didn't see that with him. So he did some good things. He extended some drives. I think in the Burgundy and Gold grab bag, I think Dave said they were 3 for 5 on third downs when he was in there. So, he did some good things, but again, he's a backup quarterback. But I liked what I saw from the starting offensive line. You guys know I'm keeping a sharp eye on the offensive line. I thought the offensive line played well. It gave Fitzpatrick time to throw. They opened a couple of running holes. So I thought the offensive line performed well. It was good to see Ryan Fitzpatrick with that swagger and have a command of the offense. Because we all know Cam Newton would if he were on the other sideline, George. So
he's never going to play this year for the Patriots, so don't worry about it.
A rumor isn't a rumor that doesn't die.
That's what I'm saying, man. Maybe we could trade Jared Patterson for him. I don't know, man. We can see, but but yeah, guys, I liked what I saw from the team. I know that it was a 22-13 loss, but I think that score is a little misleading because that 2-point conversion, that was good. I don't know why they called that back. That should have been a game-tying 2-point conversion. I actually watched it back on NFL Network last night, and even the Patriots announcers were completely puzzled as to why that got overturned. So it's like if somebody who's got a vested interest in seeing the Patriots win doesn't even see that call, then I don't know how the referees did. So it's going to go down as a loss. But I thought they played well. I thought they did a good job of coming back, getting in the end zone when they had to, getting the 2-point try. That was a really good throw on that fade. To Gandy Golden. So I liked what I saw from them. I think it's promising. And this is why you don't pay attention to wins and losses in the preseason, because stuff like that game happened.
Oh, and also the score would have been different if Dustin Hopkins makes both field goals, and as Tress Wade talked about, it's not just on him.
It doesn't even come down to that. Right.
So it's not, I don't think there's a panic button to push there with the field goal kicker. It's a timing thing. It's a team thing. Now, if he can't make a field goal the entire preseason, we've got another issue. But
I will say this, because I was pretty hard on him initially, and I didn't take into account the rookie snapper. So Tress Way gave a really detailed account of what goes into it and the timing and all of the things that they basically need to get down now in order to be ready for game speed, field goal tries. So, with that in mind, I'm willing to see a little more from D-Hop. I think he's been here maybe a season or two too long already. And they had Graham Gano, a guy who played for Ron Rivera, out there on the market last year, and he ended up being basically a Pro Bowl performer for the Giants last year. So D-Hop is going to really have to he's going to have to really be good this year in order to justify keeping him as long as they have.
And it's just fun
by
to
the
say Graham Gano.
way, based on my illustrious high school kicking career, which obviously is the same level that we're talking here, timing is everything with these things. Okay, so I have trust in that 3-step process.
How's illustrious not a college word? I said extrapolate. Those are the same things.
if we extrapolate George's illustrious career, we can and compare it to Dustin
Yeah,
Hopkins.
we can watch tape anytime you want. Just let me know. I'll bring him in.
I'm
I
with
know
you.
Dave Preston's chomping at the bit. I'm going to get to real quick on Taylor Heineke. I will say that I'm not starting a quarterback controversy. I don't think he's a number one, but I think what is exciting is we have a small sample size on him. I still think you think about he got thrown in last year after we Googled to find out who he was, and next thing you know, he's starting a playoff game, and he's only played one preseason game now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he develops. Dave?
I think each of the quarterbacks looked exactly where they should be on the depth chart. Nobody had a game good enough or bad enough to move them up or down, or even be knocking on the door up or down. I thought that Ryan Fitzpatrick had a decent, 2 possessions, one of which would have resulted in points, and Hopkins made that 40-yard field goal. Heineke had a nice drive at the end of the first half, but wasn't spectacular otherwise. And Montez looks like a third string, fourth string guy who's trying to hang on the roster. So nothing happened this past Thursday to alter one's view of the depth chart. Question is now moving forward, what happens when Kyle Allen joins the crew?
All right, what do we want to see? What are you still looking for? Christian, we'll start with you. What else would you like to see from this Washington football team going forward as they progress through this now 3-game preseason?
The linebacking core continuing to support the front guys out there who can be run stoppers. If this becomes a unit of front 7 that I think already is there in terms of a top 3 defense continuing to play there, when in a 17-game schedule, you're going to have the grind of the year. It's going to get nastier weather. I want to see these guys play like dogs. I mean, that's what I preach when, I coach my high school football team, like be tough out there. And I've seen that effort from those guys. Rob was right. I mean, the score really totally wasn't indicative. I thought the defense played pretty well and has that attitude under Jack Del Rio. So just really, I would say that I think we know how explosive this offense can be, and the offensive line issues really do need to be, removed. I don't know that they're going to be totally, but the O-line needs to improve. But the defense, just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to win a lot of ball games that way, just being better and tougher defensively.
George?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think the word that Ron kept using last week was consistency and what he wanted to see from week 1 to week 2 in the preseason. And I think that's a good thing. I think these, there aren't many spots up for grabs right now. It's basically what you're watching is what you're going to get as far as first teams are concerned. The rookies, to see how they keep progressing, because look, between Sam Cosmi, De'Ami Brown, Jamin Davis, Jared Patterson, even these guys, I think are going to be counted on this year to play and produce. So to see how they continue to make it through the summer, I think is going to be big for me, and the offense too, to see how it keeps progressing from week to week. Last week was it was interesting the way that Ron Rivera was talking. Look, there was no preseason last year. Some of these guys you can't tackle anymore in practice. So this was the first time to kind of see between hitting and then taking to the ground, the thump into the ground. So I think that was, to hear, you kind of take that stuff for granted, like, oh, it's second nature. But the way that these coaches kind of talk about it, and I thought the other thing is interesting, the college guys, how they have to keep reminding him, and I know we've touched on it here or there, again, things you think are second nature. In college, when you're down, you're down. But in the pros, you're down, you're not down. So those are the little things that you hear Ron Rivera saying that you haven't heard from previous regimes. And that just it's the little things like that, which makes a difference, I think, between a Ron Rivera coach team and others, which is a positive for me.
All right, we got a minute left. We're going to split it between Dave Preston and Rob Woodfork. Dave, go. Anything on your mind now going
I'm
forward?
looking for crispness. I'm looking for quality of play. I think the one thing that we lacked in previous preseasons under previous regimes was there wasn't a sense of urgency. I think with Ron Rivera, his head coach, we saw that last Thursday, even though we didn't technically get the results we wanted. Looking for improvement on both sides of the ball as well.
Rob?
Offensive line is something I'm going to keep an eye on and lessen until we find out, one way or the other, whether it's going to be good or bad. Like what I saw from Sam Cosmi, that's the big question mark on the line for me. So I thought he acquitted himself well. And also these special teams, because they missed 2 kicks. So we need to get that timing down. We need to see a lot better. It can't be misadventures in kicking anymore. They can't afford to have that. They're going to be playing in a lot of close games because they are a defensive oriented team. So we need to see improvement in special teams, especially.
Offensive line, most important thing in football, and that'll often dictate how far you will go. And there was some study years ago that they're the smartest. They did this by GPAs. So there's something to that as well.
I mean, the NFL has a doctor playing right guard for the Chiefs right now.
Right,
So
right.
Yeah.
One of many reasons why I never could have been an offensive lineman, just not bright enough. That'll do it for this week's DC Sports Huddle. Yeah, we're getting into the football season. For Rob Woodfork, Dave Preston, Chris Cichon, George Wallace, I'm Dave Johnson. Thanks for your time.
Right.
Great.